This is the Dan LeBatard's Show with the Stugats on ESPN Radio.
I'm with Lewis on this.
Big win for Curt Schilling last night. I can't remember in the history of history ever seeing a situation more mainstream misread than what happened with our country's most important office. So all of us were glued last night to what was happening, and it was stunning to watch in real time. And it was amazing to see the Hillary supporters weeping before the election was even over, just weeping. Even as women voted for Hillary, it was like watching a sporting event, and it was like watching a sporting event where the people in face paint and makeup are crying after the Hail Mary gets thrown that you're stunned to see beat your team. I have no recollection in my history of watching television the media being this wrong with alleged data. Nate Silver, 538, ESPN built an empire because his data is so accurate at being able to predict things, and everyone got it wrong. How? We are going to be scrambling through the rubble on this, trying to figure out how the American mainstream media can be as wrong as it has ever been about anything it has ever covered.
We discussed this during the local hour. It's impossible with all the data, which is why I object to all the data that people have in sports.
The data is clearly garbage.
Well, you can't.
When Nate Silver, who has built an empire at ESPN, has built an empire, had ESPN and the New York Times and everyone fighting over him because his data was so good. When his data is rubbish,
right? But
the data is garbage.
But there's data, and then there's the human element. And you cannot predict if Democratic voters are going to sit at home, and you can't predict how many people are going to come out because they simply just want change. They want something different.
It was like watching a sporting event last night, and you guys get real mad over time, over the last 10 years. Anytime I talk about race, but it seems fairly obvious and evident that this country is angry. And the race problem that we've been talking about for a long time is super obvious to everybody. And I don't see how you could be disputed, how that can be disputed. And we have now got a situation where the small oppressed white man has taken back his things. Historically oppressed white man finally, and it's good to see. The white man finally has the power because, I mean, it's long overdue. All that nonsense about Hope and Obama in 8 years, like it's a big victory for the little angry billionaire white man. Congratulations to him. That house is white, man. Belongs to, it's white. So you lose minorities and women and Muslims and the little white man is victorious today. It's an angry country, man. Play Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick had that letter that he wrote that Trump, the letter that swung the election. Bill Belichick wrote a letter. Bill Belichick, who stays out of every controversy, has never been in a controversy before. Bill Belichick wrote a note to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump read it the other day, and there were no comments from the Patriots, and everybody was scrambling, and Giselle was saying, stay out of my Facebook mentions with Trump stuff, and so Bill Belichick was asked about this. Mike, what is this sound that we're going to play here?
This is an uncomfortable Bill Belichick because he never really wanders into this stuff, sort of explaining the reasoning behind the letter, sort of owning up that he indeed wrote the letter, and then him trying to get on to Seattle, and you'll see that'll prove to be difficult for old Bill Belichick.
All right, that's great. So what he wanted to just I haven't heard this sound yet. He just wanted to
give his statement and then move on to Seattle.
Yeah.
That is what this press conference was trying to accomplish.
So how mad is he at Trump right now for reading that letter publicly? I mean, as much as he hates distraction.
Because there's no way Trump asked for permission. Like, there's just...
No, but you
There's
go.
a good chance it caught him by surprise.
All right, let me hear all of this. I want to hear this sound.
I've received a number of inquiries relative to a note that I wrote to Donald on Monday. Our friendship goes back many years. I think anybody that's spent more than 5 minutes with me knows I'm not a political person. My comments are not politically motivated. I have a friendship and a loyalty to Donald. A couple weeks ago, we had Secretary of State Kerry in our locker room. It's another friend of mine. Can't imagine two people with more different political views than those two. But to me, friendship and loyalty is just about that. It's not about political or religious views. I write hundreds of letters and notes every month. Doesn't mean I agree with every single thing that every person thinks about politics, religion, or other subjects. But I have multiple friendships that are important to me, and that's what that was about. So it's not about politics, it's about football, and that's where it all is going forward on Seattle. All right?
Coach, were you happy or annoyed that Trump read the letter?
Seattle.
But your team's always been good at keeping outside distractions on the outside. Given the nature of this presidential race,
Seattle.
did you find it helpful to talk to your players about this? Did any of your players talk to you about this?
Seattle.
Concerns about any locker room rancor as a result of this?
Next.
Mike, you got it. That's musical. You got to figure out a way to make a remix out of that. That's there's something. There's a musical cadence. Really, Coach? I mean, come on, man.
Oh, man, that sound brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. Upgrade to shaving with a fresh blade whenever you want for a fraction of the price. Join DollarShaveClub.com today.
Here's something fascinating and kind of symbolic about where it is that Belichick finds himself today. And it is part of where America finds itself today with all-powerful white man in charge. This would be problematic in the normal black locker room, which is why you've seen so few people with the confidence of tenure and longevity and job stability in charge in black locker rooms saying that they publicly support Trump. This would be problematic to most coaches. Not this one.
No.
It doesn't much matter because he has so much power that, and not only does he have so much power, but he is so clearly, even with Tom Brady, he is so clearly the one in charge. Michael Hawley, I thought that was the most interesting thing he told us about his book about Belichick and Brady, that Brady is subservient, that Brady is a respecter of authority, that Brady does not do any of the diva stuff that you might expect from someone with his bejeweled resume. Bill Belichick is so in charge there that this is actually something damaging that NBA coaches are trying to manage in their own locker rooms. And you haven't heard an NBA coach, not one, come out and say, I'm pro-Trump, because Trump, whatever it is that your political affiliations are, Trump was a divisive and is a divisive candidate, and is a divisive candidate largely along racial lines, because he ran a white supremacy campaign. He ran a white power campaign. And so you find yourself in one of these situations, Stugatz, where under normal circumstances, this would be problematic for a coach. And it's not any kind of problematic for Belichick because he's got too much power and he's too cold-hearted about how he makes decisions.
He's the only coach, right? Like, he's the only coach under normal circumstances.
I think Popovich probably has. Popovich has, but Popovich. But even then, though, if Popovich were to do that, you really run the risk of alienating your Tim Duncans.
Sure.
You really run the risk of alienating your
Leonard.
Kawhi Leonards.
Yeah.